to me because I told the Lord, God, you want me out of this church, you're going to have to move me. Well, He did. Twice. I went back. Moved me the second time. But I remember one of the hardest time, going into the hardest time, somebody was preaching and gave an altar call, and I was down there in the front, and the Spirit of God just moved. And He said, just turn and pray for somebody. And I turned, and there was a man there, and I'll tell you later who it was. There's a restaurant now down there. And as far as being a great spiritual giant, no. You know, great man of God, no. But a man that just loved people. I turned and looked at him and just began to weep. Uncontrollably weeping, because I was under so much pressure in that church, on staff in that church. And God just hit me and it broke, and He hugged me, and that's all I needed, was somebody just to love me at that point in time. He was God's man for that time in my life, and that's what I needed. What does God need you for? We all think it's great things. It may be. And it may just be a person that loves God and is open to the things of God. And Lord, however you want to use me, whatever capacity, whatever person, here I am. But if you stop, you'll never get there. If you apprehend a point in life, you'll never get there. So I press toward the mark of the high calling. Turn to Hebrews 12. Stuck in my notes. I put something in my notes. I didn't remember why I put it. I hate when that happens. I wrote it down on purpose and don't know why I wrote it down. So it's not good when you're preaching, when you forget why you wrote something. It says, verse 1, Wherefore, seeing we're so compassed about with a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Look at my notes. I'm going to turn the page. It says, Wherefore, seeing we're compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, we've got all these witnesses around us. You know, if you read Hebrews 11, all the great things of great men of God, what they've done, what they've experienced, what they went through, what God did, how He changed them, how He worked situations out, how He did all that He did. Then He says, we've got all these guys around us. Let us lay aside every weight. A weight is whatever's prominent in your life. Whatever is a hindrance or a burden. See, we always think of the weight that's a hindrance. Whatever the hindrance in my life is, or the burden in my life, that's the weight. I got to lay it aside. How about this? Whatever's the prominent thing in your life that makes you do what you do, that's not in the will of God, that's not godly, that's not conformed to the Bible, that doesn't conform, that your thinking doesn't conform to faith or peace or love or joy. That becomes the prominent thing in your life. How many of you are willing to lay aside the prominent thing? For my life, the prominent thing for a very, very long time was fear. Very long time was fear. And I could cover it up, but I couldn't get it out. I couldn't get rid of it. And over the years, God has worked on it and worked on it and worked on it to where I wasn't relying on my fear anymore. I was joking with my niece last night because she's in counseling, and I said, well, if you're not sure what to do, just kind of fake it, you know. And I was joking with her. She said, is that what you do? I said, well, I laughed at her. I said, well, 25 years ago, maybe so. I said, not anymore. It's not faked anymore. What I do, I know. What I say, I can back it. You know, when I tell you something, I'm behind it. There's no faking anymore. But I said, I always have the upper hand. And I always know I have the upper hand. That's not faked. If I'm in a situation like that, you know, in a counseling kind of situation where I have to have the upper hand, I keep it. In a preaching situation, I have the upper hand, I keep it. In a relational situation, I don't have to have the upper hand anymore. Used to be I did. Now, no, I don't have to have the upper hand. I am, long-winded, loud-mouthed, all that kind of stuff, I can talk up 10 storms, but that's not to have the upper hand. It's just, a lot of times that's just my personality now. I cut up, I joke, I do all that. That's just what I am. But I'm secure enough. I've laid aside that weight that dictated my life, that spoke into my life, that caused me to be that. Through God, because of this cloud of witnesses, having that around, I'm able to look around and say, God did it to them. He can do it with me. I can lay aside these weights. I don't have to live in this weight for the rest of my life. I can get set free and go beyond this point. He says, lay aside every weight, every prominent thing that causes you to stay right there. In every sin, in the sin which so easily besets us. See, what does the weight go to? The weight turns into sin. The weight is a prominent thing that says, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. Don't open your life up. Don't expose yourself. Don't let yourself get close to people. Don't let people get close to you. You've been hurt before, you're going to get hurt again. And I promise you, I've been hurt as much as any of you have been hurt in relationships. I promise you. I could go through them and explain to you what pain's like. But that's a weight I set aside. Does that mean because I've been hurt there, I don't open my life up here? If I had done that, I never got married. I never could have gotten married if I wasn't willing to set pain down and set hurts down. Rosie, you had a prominent thing in your life. You had a divorce. 14-year bad marriage. You had to set that down. For years, I watched her work on it, and I worked on it with her, and we walked through it, and she set things down. We used to have a fun time. I'd say, she'd say something, and I'd say, look, I'm not him. I'm me. You don't live with him anymore. You live with me now. Deal with me, not with him. And we'd have to go through that. And she still, the other day, she said, called me Jane. I did something, that's my mom's name. And I was acting like my mom. I had an attitude. I was on her. I just picked up an attitude and I got on her like my mom. And she called me Jane. And we went through, years ago, I remember I was making a point with her. And I know I've told you the story. She was doing something and I was trying to reach her and get through to her. And she was just held her position. And I was trying and I wasn't getting anywhere. And she just stubborned right up. So I walked over to her and, give me your hand. She went like that. She backed her head up and made that face. Give me your hand.
You made Daddy's face.
Yeah, she made her daddy's face. And I took her hand. She gave me her hand. I took her hand. I said, I just want to see what it's like to shake Wood Brazil's hand. That's her dad's name, Wood Brazil. I said, I just want to see what it's like to shake Wood Brazil's hand. And I shook her hand and laughed and went and sat down.
And I fasted and prayed.
She did. She fasted and prayed after that to get rid of whatever it was that she was going through. When you see those things that become weights in our lives, they're weights. They weight us down and they become sin. They're not sin, but they become sin. And they easily beset us. When you let them become a weight, they will easily set upon you. They will easily take over and lock you into a spot and push you into sin. We've all been burnt. We've all been hurt. We've all done stupid things. My thing is, fine, get over it. You did it, get over it. Don't let it dictate the rest of your life. Don't let it form the rest of your life. You guys did Freeman. That was just dumb as a stump. I'm sorry. It was dumb as dumb could be. But at the point in time, did you know any better? No, you did it. It got you together. It got you to where you are now. You got out of it. You moved on past it. Now, you look at your life and make sure you've moved on past it. And I'm talking to you two. I'm looking over here, but I'm talking to you two. You make sure.
They did it trying to serve God.
Huh?
They did it trying to serve God.
And you did it trying to serve God. She was charismatic. I was in a church that wasn't the best and formed my thinking. For a long time, I had to unform my thinking. Virgil put some thoughts and some stuff in my head that worked for him, doesn't work for me. So for me, it wasn't the best. For him, it was fine. It worked fine for him. But for me, I have to go past that. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been working on some things in my life and some thinking. It was just thinking. ways of thinking and ways of doing things that I had to work past that. It had become a weight.